Welcome to the week one go-to session. This is the first of 4 such sessions we'll be hosting this month. Hello to everyone who's here. We have about half a dozen people with us, which is a pretty good turnout. Not everybody can make it at this time, which is why these lectures are always recorded for people who can't attend live. And actually, let me begin by pointing something out that relates to the week. Okay, so this presentation, we're going to talk about basics of the class. But let me go over some week one stuff first. Oh, you have a bunch of getting started activities. I'm hoping, well, obviously the people who are here signed up for the lecture, so that's awesome. Is everybody else who is here, have you signed up for McGraw-Hill and Turnitin.com? Because all the major writing assignments have to be submitted to Turnitin. And there are both reading assignments and these interactive modules you need to do over at McGraw-Hill. Okay, some people are saying yes, so that sounds good. Because if we look at week one, and most of this session is going to be devoted to explaining this guy here, the first major writing assignment, which is worth 10% of your grade, the 1.5 assignment. It's a brainstorming worksheet. I'll explain that a little bit later. But real quickly, since I kind of raised registration, McGraw-Hill, notice you have 2 other activities, and these are pretty much going to exist just about every week. The journal response and the achieve modules. Both of these are connected or are related to McGraw-Hill. Alex says, how do you turn in assignments to Turnitin.com? Well, first you have to get registered. So Alex, are you registered over at Turnitin? It's really simple. If I go to the Turnitin.com activity, go into preview mode. Basically, you just have to, you can read through everything, but really you just have to scroll down to here, because what you need is this stuff. Okay, you need this class ID and this password or keyword. Okay, dog days, all one word. I know it's 2 words, but I smashed them together into a single password. Okay, lowercase, so type it just as you see it. And really, it's as simple as that. Just go to Turnitin.com. If you haven't signed up before, you'll just go through the sign up. And yeah, you'll need each of these pieces. Once you get there, I don't know what it looks like from the student's side, but I've never had problems with it. You guys know how to use the internet, so I believe it's pretty intuitive in terms of being able to upload your assignments. Okay. But McGraw-Hill, okay, you have to also register for that because, okay, so week one, you have this guy here, the journal response. So let me just go into the instructions real quickly. Again, you can read everything on your own, but I've highlighted the crucial stuff. And here's the gist of it, because I'm not going to read this out loud. Basically, I treat this, and you have a text box, okay? On your end, you have like a little thing down here, right? It says write an essay response. This is where you'll write your journal entry. So I treat the journal entries like an informal quiz, because here's the thing. Students who watch these lectures, like you 8 are doing so tonight. People who attend the lectures or watch the lectures after the fact, both are perfectly fine. Yeah, those students tend not to stumble very much in this class. I don't think this is that difficult of a class. In fact, all students who complete all assignments and do so following the instructions and also showing an awareness of course concepts demonstrated or presented during these lectures, yeah, they do fine. They all pass, usually with an A or a B. So anyway, this weekly journal, it's, yeah, like I say here, it's like an informal quiz. I need to see evidence that the assigned readings have been completed for the week and that the lecture was watched. And yes, I realize there are 8 of you here tonight, but because I may not remember that Sierra Jackson or Daniel Turner or Erica Tompkins was with us tonight, yeah, you'll have to remind me, okay, by writing a short summary. I recommend writing just 2 medium-ish paragraphs, like one that summarizes the readings, one that summarizes the lecture. If you can do that, yeah, fine. I mean, do pay attention to the conventions of writing, so proofread your work and don't write all in lowercase, or, treat it like a professional piece of writing, not a text or an online discussion board comment. But yeah, if you can write 2 paragraphs, one that summarizes the readings, one that summarizes the lecture, I'll be more than happy to stamp, 100 or close to it and move on. Okay, so these are, I think, easy points that you should take advantage of. So let me show McGraw-Hill. Okay, I'm already signed in. Here's us, August. And I'm going to go into student view. So this should show what you see on your end. And as you'll see in just a second, it's all organized for you. For example, okay, so you have these achieve modules. Here, let me get out of this. Go back to the main. Here's week 1, okay? So you have these achieve modules worth 5%. And then the journal response, which I just talked about, where you just prove to me that you completed the readings and that you watched the lecture with just a shortish summary of each. That's worth 5% as well. So yeah, the readings are found here. So week 1, here's your week 1 readings. You just click on one of these guys to get started. You just have to read it. Again, you'll prove to me that you read it by writing that paragraph of summary, okay? The Achieve modules are these interactive modules. There are 3 of them for the first 3 weeks. Week 4, there is no Achieve module, but for the first 3 weeks, there are. Victoria says something about what part is the info for turnitin.com. So right here, Turnitin registration. The important stuff is here. Okay, class ID, your password, and that's all you need. Okay, so McGraw-Hill. So yeah, the readings are basically organized by week. And even though it says 32 pages, it's not that much. Pages, they sometimes have images. They sometimes have, those little like boxes inside. Sometimes they suggest, I don't know, thought questions but no, the actual text of the material, it's not that much. Okay. So yeah, for week 1, you'll be expected to just summarize what you've read in these sections. Now, the Achieve modules are interactive modules, and I can see your completion. So if you complete it to 100%, you get 100. If you complete it to 75%, you get a 75. But there's no reason why you shouldn't be completing these to 100%, because again, these are sort of gimme points. So you just click to begin, and it will prompt you if you want to set up a schedule. You don't have to, or you can set one up, but you don't have to follow it. You could bang it out in one sitting if you like. So while this is processing, here we go. Okay. So hold on. I need to move things. Okay, there we go. I clicked on assignments up here. Okay, so it says, do you want to set up a study schedule? If you can, great. I've started this one in the past, so let me go back into it. But here's week 1, okay? So you just click on this guy here to get it started. And you get a series of questions, okay? They're mostly grammar related. And you can choose, do you just want to work 20 minutes at a time, or work 4 questions at a time, or you just want to jump in and complete the assignments. So let me do that. And yeah, so here, choose a correctly punctuated sentence. Click the answer you think is right. My art collection, she cried, as the fire consumed her home. That looks good. My art collection, she cried. No, because exclamation point goes after the dialogue, not at the end of the sentence. My art collection, she cried, as the fire consumed. No, that's not correct. I mean, it could be, but there's no period at the end. And this is incorrect because she's not asking a question. So yes, I think this one's the right one. And then you should answer truthfully. I'm pretty confident that I know it. So boom, correct. And once you answer something correct, you'll see this bar move. Okay, so I'll click OK. And as you can see, I'm 2% done. Add a question mark in the appropriate place at the end of the sentence. Do not make any other changes. Why did the chef say garlic will never be used in this restaurant? I believe the question mark goes outside because it's not what the chef is saying that's a question. It's, okay. If the chef's words were a question, the question mark would go inside the quotation marks. I'm pretty confident this is correct. By the way, if you ever have trouble with these sorts of things, these interactive things, you might want to try a different browser. I use Chrome because I have 0 conflicts using Chrome. Also, there could be some goofiness if you try to use a mobile device like a phone or a tablet. But yeah, if you have any problems, try a different browser. So I think I know it. Click submit. Correct. And as you can see, it jumped up to 4%. So as soon as you get to 100%, you're done. It really is that easy. Okay. Highlight the dependent subordinate clause or clauses in the sentence. Yeah, there's some tough ones. Elizabeth Bishop, whose poetry we studied, once lived in Brazil. Subordinate clause. Ooh, see, this is tough. I'm an English major. I'm pretty sure it's this guy. Okay, but let's see, I'm not sure. Okay, so I say I think so. Correct. Boom, move on. We're at 6%. I'm going to stop answering questions because then I'm just doing it for you. But you get the gist, right? And the idea is even if you don't know the answer, you'll learn the answer, okay? Even if you get it incorrect. And it will probably come up again later, and it will test to see if you can remember what the... Hopefully it will stick, okay? I didn't learn grammar by reading grammar books. I learned just through practice, just through the act of being more aware. So that's how the McGraw-Hill things work. Does everybody here feel confident that they can do that? Okay. So yeah, you have 2 things every week, okay? The required readings, which is important for that weekly journal, and then the achieve modules. Okay, one of those for each of the first 3 weeks. Okay, let's see, is there any other? Oh, I should go over some basic introduction stuff. I think it's covered in my... Okay. Yeah, I have a little presentation here. So syllabus, course resources, office hours, writing center. The office hours are contained here under Meet Your Instructor. Everything else can be found under the About tab. Okay, so you have the syllabus, resources. I believe the writing center is there. Just in case, I'm going to type it into the chat. It's writing center, one word, at fullsail.com. People are watching the video can't see the chat window, but it's writing center at fullsail.com. Thank you, Tamara. Alex says, how do you upload to Turnitin once you are registered? Alex, I can't show those steps because I don't have a student view for Turnitin. I do believe it's pretty intuitive, though. Like, if you're comfortable uploading documents when you're online or here on the FSO platform, you should be able to do it through Turnitin.com as well. Okay. So here, let me get to my presentation. Why do you have to take this class? You can look at the quotations and the statistics on this slide, but the truth is, I don't think I really have to explain this. Excuse me, I have a dry throat. Should have gotten a glass of water. Yeah, I don't think I have to explain the importance of being able to write well or communicate well, because even the occasional student who, okay, they're not crazy about this class, right? They say, I didn't come here to Full Sail for this. I came here for music or cinematography or video game design. Still, I think all people know that being able to communicate well is important. You know, show me a person who's successful, and almost always they have very strong writing and communication skills. It's difficult to find someone who's successful who isn't. Yeah, I think people know that. I think people, yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do you not know that it's important? I mean, I get it. Lots of times students' resistance is because of their past. They had an English teacher in high school made them feel bad, or they've felt like they have been criticized all their lives. This class is not like that. Okay, so don't panic that way. But yeah, we do teach English here because we do think it's important that you have at least the basic skills to go on, because you're going to have to continue writing in your other classes. Once you get past English, it's not like writing disappears completely. There will still be assignments. You'll still need to communicate. Even once you get out of school, communication doesn't stop. So hopefully if you can pick up a few things in this class and then continue with it afterwards, you should be in good shape. Yeah, so Victoria's mentions dream about writing a novel. We have a lot of creative people here at Full Sail. So yeah, I don't think we have too many people who are kind of resistant, but even if they are, they do understand deep down inside that writing is important. So what are we going to do in this class this month? The good news is we are working towards a single assignment. You're not going to be writing essays every week. Okay? Actually, we're building towards a single essay, but we're going to do it step by step. Okay, so the first step this week is, well, let me talk about what we're working on first. As you can see by the image on the screen here, we're going to talk about something that that surrounds us all the time, advertising. Okay, so the main thing we're working towards this month is a short ad analysis paper. You will choose an ad, but it's from an approved list. Okay, I can't have 50 people choosing 50 different ads. I will get away from the presentation at times, so I apologize for that. But in week one, it's contained in this major assignment itself. Okay, so if I go into the assignments, again, you can read through the instructions on your own, but if we keep scrolling down, here's the list of ads. Okay, so we have 5 television commercials: McDonald's, Call of Duty, Allstate, Salvation Army, Apple, and 3 print ads. Okay, so these are obviously, here, let me click on one. Right, so here's a print ad. Now, we're going to get some practice in this lecture looking at ads and figuring out what we can possibly say about them. Okay, so if you're panicking already thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say about an ad, what is ad analysis? Don't worry, we're going to cover that in this lecture. But for right now, I would say, yeah, don't start thinking about, ooh, I love Call of Duty, that's what I'm going with. Or, oh God, I love Apple, I have an iPhone. Hold off until the lecture is over. Because one thing I'm going to impress on everyone is choose an ad based on, once the lecture is over, which ad has the most things you can see going on in it. Okay. For example, I do think that print ads are more challenging than television commercials. Not trying to scare people away from it, but print ads, there's no sound, there's no motion, right? It's a still image. So on some level, if you're going to choose a print ad, you have to be comfortable talking about visual elements in an ad. Okay. Television commercials have other things going on: camera work, sound, music, even issues related to character. Okay, because sometimes commercials kind of tell a story. So yeah, print ads in general. I keep meaning to remove this one every month, the Chico one, even though I love it. Why? Because I think it's the most difficult ad. So let me give that heads up right now. Yeah, it's a beautiful ad, but if ultimately you're not sure what to say about it, don't choose it. Please choose an ad where you can immediately see things that are going on. And we're going to practice this. Okay, we're going to look at 3 ads during this lecture. Actually, let me get back to. Yeah, it's an ad for Chico products, Victoria. Chico makes a bunch of baby and toddler items. So bottles and toys and all those sorts of things. So it's an ad for the company as a whole. I remember what I was going to say. Sorry. I did want to kind of just mention 2 real quick giant overview things. I think most of you know this, but the easiest way to get in contact with me is to just use the messaging function here on the FSO platform. Every so often, students will send me email. That's fine, but to be honest, so many people send me messages through FSO that I almost forget to check email. I do try to check it once every 24 hours like I should, but if you need an immediate response, yeah, we have a terrific messaging system through FSO, so please use that. Second of all, I have to also state here that we do have a late policy in this class. There's a 10-point penalty for every day that an assignment is late, up to 72 hours. After 72 hours, the assignment receives a 0. Now, I'm a pretty easygoing instructor, so if life just throws a lot of at you have to work a double shift over the weekend, or there's some personal issues, just let me know. I'm pretty easy with, yeah, sure, hand it in Monday instead of Sunday, okay? But yeah, let me know in advance, not 10 minutes before the assignment is due. But that's the official late policy: 10 points per day up to 72 hours, and then after 72 hours, it receives a 0. That's not a big deal if you're 1 day late, right? It's only 10 points, but obviously if it's a week late, that's already 35 points lost. So be aware of that. Okay, let's get back to what we're working on this month and the first assignment, because that's the most important thing. So let's start talking about ads. Actually, let's jump right into it and start talking about what you need to look for. Okay, so here's the slide: ad analysis. That's what we're working on this month. Yes, how do advertisers persuade their audiences? Oh, this slide just gives every week in this course is devoted to a separate stage of the writing process. As you can see, the writing process is this not quite circular. Here it's a pentagon, but you can see it's recursive in the sense that it can be repeated. So we're here in week 1, brainstorming. Okay. This week you choose an ad from that approved list, and you're going to complete a brainstorming worksheet. The worksheet is already provided for you. I'll show it towards the end of the session. Okay, it's mostly a template. It has 10 prompts that you need to answer. Week 2 will be here researching. Yes, there is research required for this assignment. And organizing. I don't want to get too far ahead, but after the next step, after the brainstorming worksheet, will be an outline. Okay, so next week's lecture, we'll talk about the outline. Then in week 3, you'll write a draft of the paper. And then in week 4, you'll get feedback, both from me and your peers, and hand in a revision. Each stage of the way, you'll get feedback from me. So you'll hand in your brainstorming worksheet, you'll get feedback, and you'll need to apply that feedback for the next assignment, the outline, which you'll get feedback on, and you'll apply that feedback when you write the draft, and so on. Okay, so we're taking it one step at a time, but we're working toward a single paper, okay? A single short essay, approximately 3 pages. This is just a repeat of what we just went over. Now, each week is devoted to a separate stage in the writing process. This is the ad we're going to talk about, okay? But actually, I want to look at the next slide first. I should have put this earlier. I want you to think of a couple things. First of all, I'm going to keep repeating the number 3 throughout the entire month. Why? Because what we're aiming for, okay, let me show you in real time. Okay, let me get out of this. Oops, there's another ad. We'll look at that one next. Okay, let me open up a blank Microsoft Word document. What we're aiming for in this class is a 5-paragraph thesis-driven essay. Okay, so at its simplest, and some of this might be a review for you guys, but I'm still going to go over it because probably half the class, this is new stuff. But what I mean by 5-paragraph essay is, imagine you had to write a paragraph about what you plan to do over the summer. Okay, so a thesis might say, this summer I will go hiking, travel to California, and chill out with friends. I'm just making this up off the fly. Believe it or not, yeah, this is a thesis in the sense that it's setting up the entire paper. Okay, we're going to talk about thesis later in the lecture, but I'm skipping ahead and presenting it now. The thesis is typically the final sentence of your opening paragraph. And yeah, it's the final sentence because it's leading into the rest of the essay. And by 5 paragraphs, I mean that you'll have 1 paragraph, that's your introduction. Okay, this will have your thesis in it. And then 3 body paragraphs. Okay, so body paragraph number 1, where you discuss your first point. Okay, so hiking. Second point, traveling to Cali. Okay, and then so on, right? The third point was what? Be with friends. Okay, and then you'll have a conclusion. Now, we're not writing what are you going to do over the summer essay? By the way, this is a very lucky person going hiking, traveling to California. I wish I could do that. But this is the gist of what we're going for. Why I say the number 3 is because whatever ad you choose, you are going to have to notice or be able to notice 3 interesting, important things going on in the ad. Okay, so ultimately we're working toward a thesis that says in the blank ad, okay, so the McDonald's ad, the Call of Duty ad, the Allstate ad, or actually here, let me rephrase that a little bit differently. The blank ad uses blank, 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 and blank in order to, okay. Now we're going to look at some examples of this. So but I want to introduce this because I don't want anybody to get lost. Once you can identify those 3 things in your chosen ad, then yeah, you can start putting together the paper next week. This week, you don't have to worry about any of this. So I'm actually getting ahead of myself, right? So again, introduction, that has your thesis, and then thesis point number 1, thesis point number 2, thesis point number 3, and conclusion. Okay, does all this make sense to people? Have you learned this before? The basic 5-paragraph structure? Yes, no, maybe so. Here, I'm not going to save this. No, I don't want this. And actually, let me show. You won't see this until week 3. Oh, every week this go-to shuts down my computer. I've actually done all the assignments for this class because I thought it was interesting as an instructor to, yeah, give a try at the assignments I ask students to do. So you won't see this until week 3, until you write your actual essay draft. But you will ultimately see not just my essay, but also a past student essay. So every week you have completed examples. So I just want to show the completed actual paper that I wrote. So it says Jane student, but that's actually me. This is what we're working towards, by the way. This is on the Jeep ad. We're going to take a look at it in just 1 second. Actually, you know what? I'm going to hide this because first I want to see what you guys can spot in the Jeep ad, and then I'll come back to that. Okay. So what sort of things should you look for? I just said you're going to have to spot 3 interesting, important things in your ad. Okay, because ads, the people, the ad agencies who create these ads are paid millions of dollars to create these ads. So no choice that they make is accidental. So you have to be able to identify 3 choices that those ads creators have made, 3 strategies, 3 tactics. And a good way to think about it is those moves, okay, those 3 moves that I'm asking you to spot in an ad, they can be broken down into 2 general categories. Formal qualities, so this is like technical stuff. The use of color, the use of sound, the use of music, the use of camera work, etc. Or thematic qualities, so theme, motif, character, story, audience, etc. Okay, so kind of like technical stuff and non-technical stuff. So here's an ad from. Here is an ad from Jeep. Now you don't see both halves of the ad at once. Okay, both are shown here so you can see the visual trick. That looked at one way, it looks like a giraffe's head. Looked at another way, it looks like a penguin. But you only see the left half. Okay, as you can see, it's got the animal image, and then I don't know if you can read that, but it says see whatever you want to see. Okay, and then Jeep, and it's written right side up above the image and upside down below the image. Probably it's upside down, so it encourages you to kind of turn your head and then you spot the visual trick. Now, even though you have no experience yet with ad analysis, even though you might be thinking, gosh, I don't know the first thing to say, just start throwing things out. What seems like interesting things that are going on in this ad? And think about what I've just talked about. Technical things, formal qualities, non-technical things, or earlier I said with a print ad, you have to be comfortable discussing visuals. So, okay, Victoria says the texture, good. Erica says adventure. Yeah, I do think there's something there. I'll come back to that. Any other thoughts? There is definitely the texture of this background. I'm going to come back to it. Both the color and the texture, I would say. Daniel says the graphics. Daniel, by graphics, do you mean the animal imagery or do you mean the whole thing itself, the layouts? Because we have to be very, very specific. So far, I think Victoria mentioning texture, that's very, very specific. Layout, okay. I mean, certainly we could talk about, for instance, yes, there are layout choices, right? Like prominent image in the center, because that's where eye goes. Even subtle things like lighting, like it's darker at the corners, lighter in the center, that draws your eye. Yes, it's definitely a simple ad. Let's begin with Victoria's point. What is it about the texture? How do we describe this? And here's the thing. Ad analysis ultimately tries to answer the question why. Why this texture? Why this color? I mean, why isn't it just a powder blue background? Just plain blue, not textured at all. Why does it choose this beige textile-like background, right? Any thoughts? Erica says makes you focus on it. Okay, but I would say hot pink would make you focus on it. Victoria, I think, is getting close to it here, right? It feels rural, homey, and it's not hard on the eyes. Sierra, yeah, good. And Dominique, great. I think you're completing what Victoria started, because it's the outdoors. It's rugged. And why would that be important for Jeep, right? Kind of stating the obvious, but Victoria says she's had color. Good. Color theory is important here, right? I mean, think about it. We're talking about Jeep. What comes to mind when you think of Jeep? What's the stereotypical image? This is the kind of vehicle you use when you want to go on safari, right? It's about the outdoors. Yes, all terrain, off-roading, all that stuff. So can you see why this color choice, which is an earth tone, this beige khaki color, and the texture quality, the fabric quality that reminds you of like canvas, or right, canvas tents, khaki clothing, burlap, yeah, all that stuff, which is also outdoorsy. Does it make sense why that would be correct? Yes, Erica, that's why you said adventure, which was why I was holding off, because yes, I do think that the ad is choosing this background because it's connecting Jeep to what it's known as. Right, and the penguin. I think the image choice, right? Why a giraffe? Or why this trick of looked at one way it's a giraffe, looked at one way it's a penguin? Why isn't it looked at one way it looks like a truck, or a truck, that's a car. Why doesn't it look like a bottle one way and I don't know, a telescope the other? I think we've also answered that, correct? Because it's Jeep. We don't think of Lexus or Hondas as the kind of vehicle you would jump in to go see giraffes and penguins. But a Jeep? Yeah, you bet. So these are the sorts of things I want you to be able to notice in your chosen ad. Okay? You keep asking the question why? Why this color? Why this background? Why animal imagery? Why not just any imagery? Because it's about Jeep. And now, yes, I am going to show my completed essay so I can reinforce. I cannot get this thing. There we go. So I can reinforce what I was saying before about thesis. Okay. So, yeah, I wrote this essay because, like I said, I wanted to see. I thought I would bang it out. I was confident. I was like, yeah, I know what to say about this ad. I'll just write it in 2 seconds. And no, it took me like 12 hours. So, yeah, it was useful just to remind myself that even a fairly light writing task requires a lot of work. But anyway, here's an introduction paragraph. And yeah, I kind of riff on the idea of Jeep, right? What it's known for. Jeep, the well-known brand, practically markets itself with its reputation of ruggedness. Someone mentioned that earlier. Independence and adventure, as Erica said. Then I use a nifty quote about how it's the most copied brand of American vehicles. And then I say the Jeep spirit and the loyalty that this motor car inspires is hardwired into our cultural consciousness. One can easily picture a driver behind the wheel of a Jeep, downshifting around a snaking mountain bend, kicking up dust through the sun-baked Australian outback, or zooming past zebras grazing the Serengeti. Right? That's the image of Jeep. I mean, some might say the military as well, but certainly the adventure aspect. And here's my thesis. Through the use of simple color, that's one. Imagery, so that animal imagery. 2, and a double meaning tagline that reinforces theme. 3, the see whatever you want to see ad appeals to the inner adventure inside everyone. Okay, so this is what we're aiming for. You too are ultimately going to spot 3 things, and they're going to become part of your thesis sentence. Because once your thesis is in place, the entire essay is set up, all 5 paragraphs, and then it becomes kind of like a blueprint, right? Introduction paragraph, boom. 3 paragraphs, each one that focuses on your 3 thesis points. So here's an entire paragraph about the ad's use of color, where I talk about its beige background, the texture like textile quality, and what it brings to mind. Okay. I find a couple nifty quotes. Okay. We're not going to talk about research yet because that's next week. But yeah, I found some quotations related to color theory about earth tones. Okay, and then there's a paragraph about the Jeep's imagery. Finally, one about its tagline. And then there's a conclusion paragraph. Okay, so this is what we're working toward. Daniel says, I'm not good at thesis or essays, but it's worth learning all over again. Yeah, and Daniel, you can do this. Okay, it's really, you spot those three things. And I deleted it, but it's, remember I had those blanks. The blank ad, so the McDonald's ad, the Call of Duty ad, uses blank, blank, and blank. You need to fill in those blanks with three things that you see. We've already, okay, so we've done pretty well with the Jeep ad. Let's take a look at another one. How about this one? What's paragraph 4, Taylor? Oh, now I feel bad because I actually deleted that Microsoft Word thing. I won't do it all over again because I know that's incredibly boring, right? Introduction, thesis point number 1, thesis point number 2, thesis point number 3, conclusion. These are your 5 paragraphs, okay? That's why it's crucial that you have a thesis that lists 3 strong ideas or 3 strong moves that the ad makes, okay? So for Jeep, for me, it was color, imagery, and tagline. Where was I? I've lost myself. Oh yeah, this ad. Same thing. Shout out things that stand out to you, okay? Don't worry about whether it's correct or not. Just think about either technical or non-technical things that are going on that are deliberate choices, okay? Ad analysis is not about just describing the ad. It's not about explaining the ad either, or like literally explaining what the ad's message is or what it's about. No. You need to lift up the hood of the ad, kind of like the way you lift up the hood of a car to see what's underneath. So what are some things that stand out to you here? Erica says dramatic. Okay, good, but I'm going to push you and say that it's got to be more specific than that. What's making it dramatic? Okay, dramatic is you broadly describing, or okay, the shiny red car. Okay, why the lighting? Okay, good. Retro. Yeah. I should point out, Tamara, this ad is an older ad. It's from the early 1970s, but it could be an ad from today. There are retro feeling ads out there that try to recreate the mood of the 1970s. So don't worry that it's from a long time ago. This ad could be from today as well. Okay, a couple of things. People can feel free to keep mentioning things. Oh, okay, good. Sierra says provocative sex appeal. The girl isn't wearing a bra. That's important, by the way. Sierra Jackson says something similar. Provocative, retro red car, the woman. Okay, lots of great stuff. So let's take these in orders. In order. I forget who said it. Victoria, maybe. The shiny red car. Okay. What would you say about that, though? Ultimately, you have to, again, have those 3 things that you notice. So is it, okay. Yeah, okay, so there's a feeling of rebelliousness, right? Which is communicated in, I think someone said earlier, the woman, because she's provocative. And yeah, we're adults, so the fact that she's braless is important. Because look at the ad's tagline, your mother wouldn't like it. Do we all understand what your mother wouldn't like? Yeah, as Erica just said. Yeah, your mother would not approve, right? It's a stereotypical mother. The mother who would just show disapproval about either this car, this woman, or both. Notice the woman and the car are both front and center. And they're a pair, okay? They're linked. That's not coincidence. So yes, you could write an entire paragraph, or it could be one of your thesis points, the link between the woman and the car. Or if you wanted to describe it as the ad's rebellious or provocative theme, okay? Yeah, that could be a thesis point where you talk about the woman, what she represents. Yeah, or as Tamara puts it, fast car, fast woman, right. But the ad's doing that on purpose because it's not appealing to women. This ad isn't aimed at women, it's aimed at men, right? Men who believe that if he buys this car, he'll feel a little bit more rebellious. Or maybe he's, what's the stereotype, going through a middle age crisis. Um, okay, so yeah, lighting. Someone mentioned lighting. Anybody want to take a stab at that? Because I'll argue that yes, lighting is important here. I'll also say color as well. That was kind of mentioned before by Victoria, the red car. But why would lighting and or color? Okay, Dominique says nightlife type lighting. And why is that important? Keep in mind, I keep asking why? Why this lighting? Why this color? Why this woman? Right? Because why leads to analysis. If you just describe the color, that's not analysis. That's just you describing what anybody can plainly see. You explaining the choices, that's analysis. Victoria says the warm lighting gives a soothing, alluring feel. Okay, I definitely like this the second part. It's not that I would disagree with soothing. It's just Daniel says the lighting brings forth illumination. Okay, but and by the way, when I sometimes problematize, it's not that I'm shooting ideas down. It's just that these are the things that I would say to you in my feedback. The lighting brings forth illumination. I would say that maybe that's a little bit. It's kind of stating literally what lighting does. I think we're getting at it, right? It sets the mood. It feels dreamy. Here's the thing. To me, it feels lurid, sensual. Does that make sense? Right? The lighting, the colors. Think of these colors: orange, red. Even the lighting is orangish. It's, yeah, sensual. Lurid, which is another word for sensual, although it has a slightly, I'd argue, more negative tone to it. Um, but yeah, this is a sensual, borderline sexual ad, making a link between the car, the woman, right? Your mother would never approve of this because what sort of man would drive this car or be with this kind of woman, even though there's nothing wrong with the woman. But that stereotypical mother might not approve. Which word, Victoria, you couldn't put your finger on? Sensual? Lurid? Um, Here's something else. Even the environment. She's standing in front of a movie theater. And this, I admit, you have to know either a lot about film or you have to be older like me. But the film is Marlon Brando, you can see on the poster. It's here too, on the placard. Last Tango in Paris. Now, if you're not familiar with that film, I'm telling you, that is not an accident that she's standing in front of a movie theater showing this film. Last Tango in Paris was an X-rated film, not an adult film, not a pornographic film. It was nominated for Best Picture, but yeah, it was a very controversial film when it came out in 1973, I want to say, and it is incredibly sexually frank, even by today's standards. It might not get an X rating in 2018, but it would, yeah, it would get a lot of controversy. It is incredibly sexually frank. It's a well-made film. It's considered one of the great films of all time, but it's again, that's not accidental. So I want you to keep that in mind too with whatever ad you. I recommend looking at all the ads, not just picking one because you love Call of Duty. You don't have to love an ad. I didn't pick Jeep because I'm in love with Jeep. I just felt, yeah, I can write a paper about this. Yeah, but when you look at your ad, try to spot three important things that are going on, three moves that are made. Okay, because again, these aren't by accident, and keep asking yourself why. Victoria says, looking close to the guy behind the car seems to be looking at the girl. Yeah, I think that's part of the. I'm not sure you could get an entire paragraph out of that. Meaning, I don't think you can make a thesis point about that. But let's say you're talking about the environment in general, the theater, the guy looking. Or maybe a thesis point could do. I could see a thesis point being all about the gaze. Okay, right. The woman is the object of the gaze. The car is the object of the viewer's gaze. But there's also a man in the ad who's also gazing at the woman, the car, or both. Okay, so there's that thing going on there too. So, yeah, I think you could easily come up with three thesis points. Lighting, color, those could be separate issues or discussed together if you didn't feel there was enough. The overall environment, the link between the woman and the car, the issue of the gaze or the object of attention, right? The woman in the car are the objects of attention for the viewer, but also the object of the attention of this man. So yeah, you could definitely find 3 things to point out here. Okay, let's look at one more. This is I'll give you the link, but I don't think the link works anymore. I'll try it, but I'll crank up the sound on my end, and that won't work because now my sound is busted. Here, let me get let me go to YouTube. Yeah, it's broken. Okay, so Diet Coke, tall, dark, and handsome. Oh, actually, let me go to the video first, and I'll give you the link. Okay, so it's this one here. Yeah, my sound is broken. I used to crank it up and students could hear it on my end, but I'm going to have to give you the link and ask you to watch it. Okay, it's only 16 seconds long. Okay, so there you go. Let me know when you're finished watching it. Let me know too if for some reason you can't watch it. For those people watching at home, I'm trying to remain quiet so I don't interfere with people who are watching the ad. Yeah, that's a tall glass. But there's actually something there too for the people who say tall glass because, well, I'll hold off. I mean, I can't play it with sound, but again, here's for the people watching at home. And for people watching at home, do the same thing. Go to YouTube, type in Diet Coke, tall, dark, and handsome, and you'll get this video. Okay. So same deal. What are 3 things that are going on here, or 3 things that seem interesting? Yeah, everybody keeps mentioning the tall glass. The tall glass, I was literally thinking to Tamara says, how tall is this glass before they pulled back? What's going on there? Why do that? Again, why? What are they doing with that slow pan, right? That movement up the glass. Suspense, okay, but Victoria, I'm going to be the mean instructor and say that might be true, but that's also a bit too literal. There's something so obvious, and you all know it because you're coming close to an expression that we all have when we say a tall glass of. Okay, think of the title too, tall, dark, and handsome. Right, it's a play on words. Tall drink of water. Right, we refer to people. And were you able to listen to it with sound? My machine is busted. My my earphone connector broke off in the audio port, so I literally cannot play sound. But hopefully you were able to hear the ad as well because it's accompanied with music. So yeah, I mean, even without sound, you can see. Right? And where have we seen this similar camera work? We see it in movies, don't we? Almost always with women. Not with men unless they're reversing the stereotype or having fun. But right, how many times have we seen in a movie where quite literally the camera begins at a woman's ankle and then starts traveling up the leg, the waist, the torso, right? Kind of like I don't know, like not a striptease, but kind of a striptease in the sense that it's slowly revealing something, right? It's almost always women's bodies. But here, of course, it's reversed. It's not a person, it's a drink being scanned the same way. And it's called Tall, Dark, and Handsome, a phrase used almost entirely for men. But of course, this ad, which is probably aimed mostly at women, is doing it's lots of reversals. It's not a person; it's a tall glass. A camera technique that we often use in film that objectifies women here is, well, not objectifying men literally, but yeah, it's the glass that we associate with the man. And I would argue that you all kind of, you know that. That's how ads work subconsciously. When you watch the ad, you know that it's humorous. And you know that when it does that slow pan, that camera work, that, yeah, that's what it's playing with. But that's what needs to be pointed out. So yes, camera work is an important aspect of this ad. Okay, it makes a deliberate choice to do that. What else is important in this ad? Victoria mentioned something. Sierra too, I think, right? The music. Okay. Victoria says 80s, 70s music. I'd say it's more of a parody of 70s style music than 80s. Again, with that sensual feel. Good. Yeah, that's what the music is doing, right? With that waka waka sound that we almost entirely associate with either comedy or, yeah, sleazy films or but again, the music is a joke. It's a riff on what's supposedly supposed to be sexy music. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Victoria says she was born in the 90s, but most people kind of know that the music feels like a throwback, right? Tamara says the glass is the man, the curry bottle is the woman. I never thought about that, but yeah, I guess maybe, right? Men on average, not all the time, but on average are usually taller than women. So there could be something subtle there. That's the first time I've had someone point that out. I'm not going to disagree with it. You would have to decide come paper time if that's rich enough to be one of your thesis points. Because remember, come essay time, which isn't until week 3, but still, each of your 3 things that you notice will become full paragraphs. So first of all, you have to decide, is this an interesting point that I'm making? And second, is it rich enough to explore an entire paragraph? I do think that music and camera work could be handled in their own paragraphs. Okay. Um, so yeah, I'd say camera, music, the thing. Who was it that pointed out the Tamara says? If you want to see this as maybe stand-ins for man, woman, definitely the language of the piece, tall, dark, and handsome, which is a riff on, again, men are typically described, right? The supposedly ideal man is described as tall, dark, and handsome. So yeah, we have 3 things that we could point out here. So, how comfortable do people feel that you can do this? Okay, you choose your ad and you can spot 3 things that answer the why question. Things like color, things like music, things like camera work, editing, like how, is it shot with lots of quick, abrupt edits or is it more leisurely, calm? Okay, good. Lots of people saying, I feel confident, I'm ready. Here's the good news you're going to get feedback from me. Okay. Obviously, I'll be giving recommendations, and I don't leave anybody hanging. So if I see someone who's struggling, let me show the worksheet. I try to keep these sessions to about an hour, and we're coming up close to that. But let me just quickly, I have 2 more things to go over. Oh, my machine is, I think it's GoToTraining itself that's hogging. Here, let me just quickly show you that Jeep has this is part of a series. So here's another one with, looked at one way it's a deer head, another way it's a seal. And there's another one where looked at one way it's an elephant's head, and the other way it's a turkey. Okay, so it's part of a series. And let me close some things down. Okay, so here we go, 1.5, preparing to write. If you go into the activity itself, you can read through the instructions on your own. And again, here's where you find the official list of ads. You also have a little video to watch, Pathos, Logos, and Ethos in Advertising. This, I think the link's included every week, but this could be used as one of your 3 research sources. I'm not talking about research until next week, but I will tell you that this could be one of your 3 sources. So you don't have to find 2 more. If you want to use this video and quote something from it, you can do so. But yeah, I recommend looking through all the ads, and again, choosing one where you can easily see things going on. So don't choose the Chico ad if you can't see 3 things. Okay, don't choose the Apple ad as much as you love Apple if you can't see 3 things that are going on, or hear 3 things, or notice 3 things. And every week you have completed examples. So right here, click this link to see an example worksheet. So I'll do that. And you can see this is from a past student. And she's writing about the Diet Coke ad, Tall, Dark, and Handsome, which is not one of your approved ads, because obviously if I included the Diet Coke ad, I'm not saying you would do it, but lots of people would just imitate what's already put here. But you have an example, okay? So as you can see, there are 10 total prompts to answer, and some are basic. What is the title of your ad? For what company is this ad created? What creative team worked on the ad? She doesn't completely answer that. She only says Coca-Cola. So yeah, this is the examples we give are not always like A or A plus examples. They're usually kind of like B-ish examples. I'm not going to read every prompt, but number 3 says, describe the ad as if you were explaining its visuals and details to someone who has never seen it before. Lots of students stop here. Okay, they don't read what comes next. Be sure to identify specific details that stand out to you, such as color, use of space, lighting, sound, music, camera angles. So yes, it is a detailed summary, but you should also be identifying important things, because those important things then get explained in prompt 4. Explain why these details matter. Okay. Then there are a few more basic questions, but notice here, prompt 8, it says list 3 possible techniques that you could focus on for your essay. This is just a fancy way of saying what 3 things have you noticed. Okay, and those 3 things, for example, she notices music, the suggestive language implied in Tall, Dark, and Handsome, and minimalist approach, but I think she ultimately ditches that. And then prompt 9 asks you to write 2 thesis statements. Our thinking here is that maybe one thesis might be slightly better than the other, one might be worded differently than the other. Yeah, take 2 attempts at it. But this is, of course, where you're going to present your 3 points. As you can see, this one here, actually, that's not much of a thesis. The Diet Coke ad, Tall, Dark, and Handsome uses minimalist design to focus viewers' attention. That's sort of a general overall statement about the ad. Okay, no, this one is her true thesis. Okay, this is much better because she lists her 3 things. Uses music, 1, cinematography, 2, that camera work, okay? And 3, language, Tall, Dark, and Handsome, to convince women to buy into the idea that drinking Diet Coke is as fulfilling as a heteronormative romance. Fancy language for a relationship between a man and a woman. Okay, so this is her idea here. Just like with this student, this one, yeah, she didn't really get it right. That's not a thesis, because where are her 3 points? But this one looks great. So if I were responding to this worksheet, I would say, yeah, your first thesis looks terrific. Run with that. Your second thesis, no, that's not really a thesis because you only mentioned minimalist design. That's just one thing. Okay. And then the final prompt asks you to present your research ideas. You don't have to, you're not supposed to even do research yet. This is just where, what might you research? In general, your research is going to work to support your thesis points. Okay, so if color is something you've noticed in your ad, yeah, you might make some comments about what you hope to find regarding color theory. Okay, but really, that's what the worksheet is. If you take the time to fill out these 10 prompts with care and can demonstrate that not only have you watched the ad with care, but that you've shown an awareness of what we've gone over in this lecture, you should be in great shape. Okay. And you do have the basic template here. Okay, so this is the empty worksheet for you to complete. It's not a difficult assignment, but I'd say the only pitfalls are, to be honest, the only pitfalls are when people don't watch the lecture. They don't watch the lecture, and then the thesis, they're not, the thesis sentences aren't thesis sentences. They fill it out kind of randomly. Don't do that, because after this session, you should be able to fill this out with some care. Let's see. Oh, just real quickly, and then we'll close things up. We've already gone over this, but because the worksheet does ask you to produce thesis sentences, okay, we've already covered this, but yeah, thesis is like the roadmap to the rest of your paper, and this is where you list your 3 things. So there's the Jeep thesis. right? 3 things: color, imagery, tagline. Be careful though. Some of your ads may not have a tagline that's worth. I shouldn't laugh. I'm not laughing at people, but for example, the Call of Duty, every month I get people who identify tagline, and all they do is explain what "there's a soldier in all of us," which is the tagline of the Call of Duty ad, what that means. And then I have to be the mean instructor and say, okay, but that doesn't need to be explained. There's a soldier in all of us. Everybody knows what that means. So I chose to focus on the Jeep's tagline because I actually do something more interesting with it. I don't just explain what the tagline is. So be careful, okay? Color might not be an important element of your ad or tagline, but you should be able to spot 3 things that do. And of course, here's the Diet Coke thesis. Same thing. 3 things are listed. Okay, sexually charged language, music, seductive music, and slow camera movement. So as you can see, both thesis statements set up the paper that's going to be coming down the road. Okay, comments, questions over anything we've gone over, ad analysis, thesis statements, anything pertaining to the class, now is the time you can ask. I'll catch up, see if I missed anything. I'm going to shut down a bunch of stuff. Every week this happens, where my machine just slows to a standstill. So let me close Keynote, let me close. Yeah, Daniel, you'll be fine in this course. I can make this promise. You're here tonight, so that's a great sign. People who watch the lectures, either by attending or watching them after the fact, they just have fewer problems. Okay, it's when people don't watch the lectures, because yeah, without watching the lectures, you kind of don't know what ad analysis is, or you don't know what thesis statements are. And by the way, half the class is filled with gimme points. Okay, those achieve modules, you complete them at 100%, you get 100%. If in each weekly journal you can show me by summarizing both the readings in a paragraph and the lecture in a paragraph, boom, that should be 100 or close to it. If you hand in all your work on time for the month, your professionalism grade, which is 10%, should be 100. So when 45% of the class, quite literally, could be a solid A, you could bomb the rest of the assignments and still pass. I don't encourage that, of course. But yeah, I don't think it's nobody should be struggling that much. Yeah, I know, Alex. Not everybody's thrilled with English, but I'm not here to I'm not here to convert people into English majors. No poetry in this class, no Shakespeare. Just yes, show me you can write a focused, organized essay, a thesis-driven 5-paragraph essay. If you can do that, then I'm happy. When are the Achieve modules due? Oh, that's a good point. I sent out an announcement, I believe, which is to trust the FSO due dates. They're always on Friday. Okay, so right, August 3rd, is that this Friday? I believe so. On McGraw-Hill, though, you'll see that everything's open for the entire month. That's just so if people want to work ahead, they want to bang out all 3 Achieve modules this weekend, they can do so. And then they're ahead for the month. There's another reason that's too difficult to explain about. It makes it easier for me to see people complete things after the due dates. So I just make the due date for the end of the month. Okay. People can work ahead, and it makes it easier for me in some ways. But the due dates are what's on here. Alex says, how many words in the essay? Yeah, it's 5 paragraphs. We don't have to worry too much, but I will answer. Between 700 and 1,400 words. Nobody writes 1,400 words because that's a very long paper. My Jeep essay, which I briefly showed, that's about 3 pages, and I think it's around 800 to 900 words. So, yeah, we're looking at basically a 2.5 to 3 page paper. Easy peasy. That's right, Victoria. I do think it's easy peasy. Today's keyword is brainstorming. Yes. And again, you're going to get feedback, so nobody's going to be left hanging, okay? So I do want to see you try your hardest on the worksheets and to take a stab at coming up with a solid thesis that lists 3 things that you see at work in the ad. But obviously, if I see, let's say, someone struggling, I'm not going to just let them dangle. I will give people a list of things to consider. So yeah, for those students who are really struggling and are like, I have no idea what to say about this ad, of course I'll step in and help. I have like 6 or 7 things to say about each ad. But I'd like to see people be able to spot those things for themselves. Okay. But if I have to help, that's not a big deal either, because ultimately you're writing the paper, not me. Sure, if I give a student who's struggling a list of 7 things, like here are 7 interesting things going on, choose 3 of them as thesis points. Okay, first they have to choose the 3 points, right? 3 things that they truly think, oh, okay, now that's pointed out to me. Yeah, I totally get it. I could write about those. And second, they have to write the paper, not me. So yes, I will be there to help. Some people are mentioning, how are you finding out the names who worked on the ad? Yeah, that's just Google is your friend there, and you don't have to worry about citing at that point. Citing we'll get into a little bit next week, and then more so in week 3 when it comes to actually finding sources. This is just literally do a little bit of legwork. For example, in my GPSA, I mentioned that it was, well, let's see if I can bring up my GPSA real quickly. We'll close this. Open recent Jeep. Okay. So, I mean, it's not that important that you mention it, but like in my paragraph in the ad's use of color, I say the ad is an exercise in simplicity, especially in its use of color. The ad's creator, Leo Burnett Paris, so that's the ad agency, has chosen a simple background of camel mesh. Okay, that beige texture like background. Okay, you don't have to mention the design agency behind the ad, but this is where I got that from. Okay, basic research into who is responsible for creating the ad. I mean, if you're comfortable with what we've gone over, you do not have to stay. I thank you so much for attending, and I'll see you next week at the same time. But I will hang out a little bit to answer questions if people have them, okay? I'm excited. I think you guys did an awesome job with those 3 ads. I do think those 3 ads are, yeah, each of them have their challenges. So if you can spot things, or at least now that you've seen the discussion, basically if you can nod your head and say, yeah, I get it. I totally understand why color was important in that Jeep ad, or color and lighting in the car ad, the convertible ad. You just have to do the same thing with your chosen ad. Thank you, Erica. Yeah, you should feel confident. So pick an ad where you can obviously see things and then have fun with it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording because I think the questions are slowing down. So those people who are watching at home, thank you for watching. I'm stopping the recording now.